Welcome to the Great Man Podcast. Today we've got a special guest from the Royal Australian Artillery, Bombardier, Tietz. Rainer is a veteran from One Reg and has deployed to Iraq, as well as a bunch of other things. I know Rainer personally because we work together as staff members at the Soldier Recovery Centre at Gallipoli Barracks. Excited to talk to him today and share this podcast with you guys. Let's dig in. You done any podcasts before?
No, this is my first one, so
nice.
No idea how it's going to go, but bear with me.
Long time listener, first time participant.
Be gentle. It's my first time.
Nice. So where are you from, man? You from Brizzy or?
No. So I grew up, like my first sort of 10 years was down in the Snowy Mountains region in New South Wales.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so my parents divorced when I was about 6. And then, so I lived down there, did my sort of primary school, most of my primary school there, moved to Canberra for about a year. And then after that, I...
Sorry, you can play with that cord if you need more. Just unclip it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll just in case. So, yeah, I did that. And I moved with Mum back when I was, I think I was about 10, just about before I turned 11. And I lived in just outside of Geelong, about 15 minutes out of Geelong until I finished high school and then joined the army and spent a year down in Victoria after that. And then I posted to Brisbane and I haven't left. I dug my roots in real deep because it's so beautiful here. And
so generally, most of your life down south?
Most of my life down south, yeah. And
that's why you love the cold so much?
And then, and then pretty much my adult life here in Queensland, and I'm not going back to the cold. It's I love it here.
Weren't you I was working with you that you're always overheating and fucking cranking the aircon? I'm sure I was fucking always freezing to death in an office with you.
I think you guys are all just a bit soft. I know that Paul always had his puffer jacket on when it was like 20 degrees. So
cool. So Geelong, and where were the high school years and stuff?
Yeah, that was all my high school was in Geelong at Western Heights Secondary College, just some public school.
You never let AFL infiltrate your life?
I got into it. Like I can't play it. I've got the worst hand-eye coordination known to man. So I couldn't play it. But I did like watching it. Living in Geelong, everyone's a Geelong supporter, so I went for Collingwood, which everyone hates. I think I like the attention. Like even if it's negative attention, it's still attention. So so I went for Collingwood, and then once I left Victoria, I just stopped watching it. I didn't watch football at all until sort of 2023 when NRL Dolphins started, and now I'm obsessed with NRL and the Dolphins.
Yeah, right. So I thought you must have been a massive NRL fan and then decided to throw your support their way when they popped up.
No, I watched it. I watched Origin and stuff like that, but I never really didn't understand the game properly or anything like that. Didn't have that connection to it, I suppose. So
I guess it's easy to affiliate with a new team if you don't have an old one.
Exactly right. Yeah, and I was like, I'm not going for the Broncos because everyone goes for the Broncos. So same thing. I'm not going for Geelong because everyone goes for Geelong. So I was like, I can't go for the Broncos. So
I tried. I was like, the Redcliffe, they're going to need fans. I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
So what's the first Broncos versus Redcliffe game? And I was like, I'll see how we go here. And then I was like, fucking get them.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I can't do it.
No, it's been heartbreak this year, but it'll be right. Still fun to go watch.
They got up yesterday, didn't they?
No, they almost did. It was. We went to the game because we've got tickets to all the home games at Suncorp. We went there, and then it was my first time taking Bubs as well. Oh, and after about I think he lasted 25 minutes, and then the crowd is just so loud.
Yeah.
It just scared the hell out of him. He's only 15 months, so it was too much, and we had to leave. So I was watching the second half on my phone on the train.
Didn't miss anything then if you lost.
No, yeah. So my son saved me from the heartbreak in Perth. So yeah.
Yeah, it's I've never taken my daughter because she's pretty sound sensitive. So but it's
we packed headphones like earmuffs, and then they fell out of the bag as we were taking them out of the car. And so
Oh, no.
got to the station like, oh, no. No, it'll be fine. It's not usually that loud.
Not for us, as you're
No.
in the moment.
Well, exactly, yeah. And also, hearing loss and all that sort of stuff. It's not so loud for us. But also the Warriors fans are super loud as well. So, like, it was a pretty packed stadium. So it was
Nice.
very, very energetic.
Sweet. Making a future fan.
Yeah, he's got no choice. But the thing is that my wife and I, we were born in New South Wales, so state of origin, we have to go for New South
I
Wales.
thought you followed Blues.
Yeah, but my son, he's born in Queensland, so bad luck, champion. You got to go sit in the other room. You're watching. You're on the other side.
It'll be like you, the sore thumb that's going for someone else.
100% he will. Yeah, so that'll be good. Bit of rivalry within the family.
So what sports did you play growing up? Have you always been a big boy, or how tall are you? Like 6'4" or something?
6'4.5", I think. I always used to say I'm 6'5", but then I think I've shrunk or something like that. I don't know. But no, I've always been tall. I was like tall and lanky. Just lurch pretty much my most of my life. And then I only really sort of put on, mass and got a bit chubbier when I hit about 24. I used to be one of those guys that could just eat anything and would never gain any weight whatsoever. And then all of a sudden it just hits at like 24. You're just like, nope, now you're gaining weight.
24, fucking hell. That didn't hit me till I was like 35.
Oh, lucky. It's a battle now. No, so I never played ball sports or anything like that. I played soccer when I was like, I don't know, 8 or 7 or something like that, played that just, But I did skiing a lot growing up in the snowy mountains. Nice. So, we only lived about an hour away from the snow. So
you still get into that?
I haven't skied in 6 or 7 years now. I've still got the gear and everything, but just haven't had the time or money to go down and really invest some time in it. It's so expensive now. It just gets worse and worse.
It's insane.
I think it's like $200 at least for a day pass.
That's in fucking Australia where it's all ice and fucking just
exactly.
trash.
So it's a lot cheaper for a lot of people just to go to Japan or something like that.
100%.
If you want to do 2 weeks of skiing, cheaper to go to Japan, I think. So no, I did that. And then when I moved to Victoria, I got into like dirt bikes and riding that. Did like some local races and stuff like that, but never really pushed hard into it. I sort of just, wasn't really like a super sporty person, I suppose. Didn't have that drive to do it. So I've never been super sporty, but now I like watching it.
So you watch motocross and stuff as well?
Yeah, absolutely love it. So I've been following that avidly for the last few years. Now that you can actually watch it in Australia with a video pass, you don't have to get a VPN and all that sort of stuff. But the outdoor series starts next Sunday. But that's like if you want to watch it live, you're getting up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it because it's there. It's in America, but definitely still watch it. Haven't had the chance to ride my bike in about 12 months. I think it's been a long time, but one day I'll get the time and I'll get back on the saddle and probably hurt myself horribly.
Is it road registered or you just put it on the tail?
No, it's road registered because if you want to ride on the trails or something, you gotta have a license and rego.
Do you?
Yeah, to ride in.
You can't ride on trails without.
No, not on public land. No, you can go to a track or something like that, but
private property.
Yeah, but then you're paying $80 for a day, and so if you want to just go out to Glasshouse, you need to have rego and license and all that sort of stuff. But so that's the extent of my sport, really. I don't really do much sport other than that. Always been like an individual sports person, I suppose. Just Did
you play any team stuff when you went army or?
No. I hated that, like everyone loves sports, but like for me, it's just public embarrassment. So, the sergeant would be like, all right, like Tietz, you're up now. I'm like, please don't make me do this. Like we'd be playing rugby or something. And I'm like, I'm just going to get folded by someone. I'm like throwing the ball forward. Like, I don't know what the rules are. I'm like, what is this? So it was actually funny. If the sport if the flavor of the day for sport was basketball, and army sportos, it'd typically just be someone's a captain and there'd be 2 captains and then they just pick teams, sort of like in high school, and someone who wouldn't know would like pick me first for basketball, thinking, "Oh yeah, like I'm going to get the tall guy," and I'd be like, "Oh, you poor, you're going to be sorely embarrassed."
Double dribble and fucking.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, just so bad at it, man. Like, if you watch, if you ever watch The Office, Michael Scott playing basketball, that's pretty much me. Just so terrible.
Haven't seen the basketball one.
No, it's like one of the first. It's in the first season. It's really early, but
like
yeah,
the parkour ones.
Yeah, pretty bad at it. So
nice.
No, that's the extent of sport for me.
So when you graduated school, what did you do then? Did you do some civvy jobs and stuff?
I worked in a truss factory, like a roof truss factory with my stepdad for about 6 months, just working casual, just to pay the bills while I waited for army acceptance. So because my family were going through like a mini divorce, basically, like there was a separation and a breakdown in the family at the time of applying. They were like, "No, look, you're gonna need to wait like 3 or 6 months just to sort this out, so that we know that there's no family issues back home. There's nothing holding you back when you join." So that delayed me 6 months, but which was good. I just got to experience being a young adult, free of any obligations or anything like that, really. And then when I was like 6 months after finishing school, I joined, got enlisted, and
so it was pretty late that your mum and dad divorced when you were finishing high school.
No, so my mum and dad divorced, I think, when I was about 6, and then I lived with them with mum and her partner at the time, my stepdad Damien, who is still like a father to me. He was just so good to me, and raised me as one of his own. And so then they were having a split when I was finishing school, and so then that was there was some issues there. But mum and my brother, they left, and then I actually just stayed living with my stepdad for those 6 months, because I was like, I'm not moving now. Like, I'm about to join. I've got a life here already. So that was an interesting time for sure.
So he's pretty he's still a big part of your life, even though they've split.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're still like really close. He's like family. I've haven't reached out for quite a while because it's just been so busy. But we've both got separate lives. But it's still a very important figure in my life for sure. So it's just like family. So yeah,
good stuff. What spurred the decision to join the military if it was straight from school?
So when I was, this is, where everyone's going to pay me out, but when I was probably like, I think 13 or 14, and because I wasn't playing sport or anything like that, my parents were just like, you need to do something. So you're either doing scouts or you're going cadets, And I was like, well, I'm not doing scouts, so I'll do cadets. So I did army cadets, and that spurred an interest in it, because I never even thought about military or anything like that until then.
Yeah.
And then growing up in a pretty strict household, it was sort of like quite a natural sort of move, or a natural interest, I suppose. Like there wasn't like a struggle to assimilate with, the rules or anything like that, because I was like, oh, that's the rule, okay.
Who was a strict one? Damien?
Yeah, he was. Oh, like mum backed him. You know what I mean? It's not like it was just good cop, bad cop the whole time. But it just had like a strict upbringing. But and like at the time,
firm but fair.
Yeah, maybe not fair all the time, but it definitely didn't feel fair at the time. That's the thing. But now I look back at those, those parenting techniques, and whilst I won't adopt some of them, I'll adopt some of them as well. Because I'm like, oh, I see where they were coming from with those decisions for sure.
Did you see my video with Lily the other day?
Yeah, that was so good.
Did you have any of those? Any of those fucking sentences thrown at you?
Oh, all of them. Yeah, every single one. I gathered them. Yeah, so that was pretty funny. Funny that she just couldn't pick up on any of it.
I have no idea. I told her afterwards. Actually, the video kept going, and I told her what the real ones were, and she was like,
"Yeah,
are you serious?
Yeah.
Was that really? That's really sad."
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, look, I was lucky. I never got like beaten or anything like that as maybe a clip around the ear here and there, but like I didn't get flogged like a lot of people that I know, so there was never that sort of physical violence in the house. So I'm very fortunate for that. Like a lot of people deal with that throughout their life, not really realizing the impact it has. So
yeah. I've always gone down the path of if we show violence when we're frustrated and stuff, what are we teaching them other than when you're frustrated? The answer is violence.
Yeah. Well, when you're doing that's you losing control, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So there's bad modeling, and the lying. Like, I know it's going to be a controversial fucking subject, but the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, all that. Like, lies are okay. Sometimes if it's fun and fucking magical.
It's an interesting one.
I never
for sure.
lied. I said, "What do you think?" And just let her believe what she wanted to, but I never outright told her that there was a Santa Claus or there was an Easter Bunny.
Okay, interesting.
And then when she asked me directly, I was like, "What do you think?" And then when she was like, "Tell me," I was like, "Yeah, no."
Dad couldn't hold the secret very long either. He got in so much trouble with Mum, I think, because I was just onto it, I think, and I just pressured him and eventually it just cracked. I think I was coming up with some pretty compelling arguments for like a 4 or 5 year old, and he was just like, screw it. Yes, yeah, you're right. He got in trouble. You've ruined Christmas or something. He's like, he's already figuring it out.
Yeah. They still get their presents.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, so it's pretty funny. But no, yeah, so doing cadets definitely, I mean, like I did well in it, and I made good friends in it and everything like that, and I enjoyed it. It was like a passion thing, like everyone who served, everyone hates on cadets, and it's like, 100%, it's like so weird. It's kids pretending to be soldiers, but hey, it worked in recruiting me, that's for sure. So,
a lot of them would go through.
Yeah, so
you see a lot of them at Kapuka that always fucking keep it on the DL for as long as they can.
Mate, of course you do.
Anyone here in cadets?
You get exposed straight away though, because you're the only one not square gating, marching, with wrong arms and stuff like that. You just pick it up straight away because you've already done it. So,
I'm a warrant officer.
No, never said any of that sort of stuff. God, no, nah.
What rank did you get to?
I'm not telling. I won't say. I'll take that to the grave. So that, like it worked for me. It got me interested. A funny thing is that the lesson structure in the real army is exactly the same as what was taught in cadets. Really? So when I came to even at like sub 1 corporal, I was like, I already sort of know the lesson structure a little bit because it had just been ingrained into me.
You'd already been delivering lessons.
Yeah, so that might give you a gauge into.
So you're at least a corporal.
It's not hard to do it, It's not hard to gain rank in those sorts of organisations.
Yeah.
So that got me into it, and then I joined as soon as I could, and so I went through Kapuka, I was actually back squatted. Funnily enough, I was back squatted for my push-ups. Sucked at push-ups. Look, I'll take ownership. Like, my push-ups were pretty bad, but they were compliant. I would have passed, but they had to. They had a shortage of staff, so they needed to make they needed to convert 2 platoons into 1, and they needed so that they could free up staff. And they're like, well, 6 people need to get back squatted this week to make that happen. And sure enough, 6 people failed. And and I was like, they're like, lower, don't count that one. Lower, don't count that one. And then it'd be like, chest touch the ground. No, you chest touch the ground, fail. It's like, oh, what? So
how long was the back squad?
2 weeks. Yeah. And that was really hard at the time, and like by that stage, I think that was like week 6 or something like that. So by that stage, all your family have already booked accommodation and stuff like that for your march out, and you got to tell them, no, it's been pushed back another 2 weeks for that. So yeah, look, it's an embarrassing time, but like probably the first true bit of adversity. You just like you watch all your mates march out and you're still there doing it, so that sucks. But you catch up with them all anyway 2 weeks later when you get to the School of Artillery and everyone's still there.
Yeah. I back squatted in Cerberus.
Yep.
I didn't mind it at all because I had like 2 groups of friends, ones that were like a month ahead of me and ones in my current squad.
Yep.
Yeah,
perfect.
Too bad.
Yeah, like you get through it. So, that was pretty pretty interesting. And then went to Pucker and
Did you join? What's the artillery? Fucking. What do you join as for that? Just artillery.
the role was actually it was called artilleryman. I think now it's called artillery operator to be more gender diverse. Because back then men could only do it. We're only allowed to apply for it. And before that it was called gun number. So yeah, in simplest of terms, you're part of a 8 to 10 man squad that are operating a 155 millimeter howitzer that can send a 40 odd kilo projectile about 30 kilometers away. So, that was a pretty cool job, like definitely cool. When I joined, before I even joined the army, like I always knew that what I wanted to do in the army was to be like a recruit instructor. I wanted to be like, I felt like I had a knack for teaching people or passing on information, and I really enjoyed helping other people learn. So when I joined the army, funnily enough, I deferred uni for 2 years. So I got into uni to do, I was going to do science and teaching. So I was going to be, I wanted to be a science teacher basically because I loved science at school and I loved teaching. So I was going to be a science teacher, but I deferred uni for 2 years, which was the max you could do. And then funnily enough, I just got in at a time where artilleryman was like the only job where you could join for a 2-year contract. So I signed for 2 years and deferred for 2 years. So it was like, well, if the army sucks, then I'll go back and I'll go to uni. And I didn't do that. I stayed in because I loved it. So
2 years, fucking hell. How much after your training and stuff? How long's Pucker?
Ours was long because we got to Pucker in October, and then we did our gun course, like our initial employment training. But then you still needed to do I can't even remember. I think it was called CIT or something like that. It was basically you had to get like gassed. You had to be trained on, grenades and
like an all-call combat.
Yeah, like an all-call. Yeah, it was an all-call combat sort of thing. So we had to do that, and we also had to do our communications course as well. So they were in January. So we were there over Christmas. So our IETs in total were quite long. But yeah, really, I think gun course is it was like 6 weeks or something. It was pretty short. So yeah, you probably do like maybe 10 weeks in total of employment training, and then you'd be off to your regiment. But then I did my training at the School of Artillery, and then because I had a girlfriend at the time in Victoria, and School of Artillery is only an hour and a half from home at the time in Geelong, so I requested they had 3 positions to post to the school, to 53 battery there. So I posted, they needed 3 people and no one was volunteering for that. I was like, I'll do it 100%. And so, I got that and I did a year there.
So how old are you this time? 18?
I was 18 when I joined. So yeah, I would have, by the time I finished my IETs, I was just turning 19. And then, so that first year was pretty cool because we learnt the L119 howitzer, which is a 105 millimeter howitzer, so the light gun. So no one else in the army was using it by that stage because it had already been sort of out of service. But because my understanding was because we still had a surplus of those projectiles, and the role of 53 battery at the School of Artillery is mainly just to provide projectiles to be impacting for the forward observers, because they need to see rounds hitting the target for their training, for their initial employment training. So they were like, well, we'll just use these old guns with these rounds, get rid of it.
For the live fire.
Yeah, so I got trained on that, and that was really, really cool. Like a bit more old school gunnery, a lot harder on the body.
Fucking big wheels on them?
Yeah, just 2 big off-road wheels, and you just have to get under it and manhandle it, and it was pretty cool. And like when you bring it into action, you actually take one of those wheels off, and then they rotate the barrel around, and then you put that wheel back on, and that wheel's so heavy, and you're just holding it like, hurry up. Like it's just a back-breaking job. Like honestly, it was really physically demanding. Yeah. And because nothing's digital as well, like it's all doing analog gunnery, sort of like a mortar, so it was that was really cool. So then
just had like some sort of sight on it.
Yeah, it had a dial sight. Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah, and then you'd have a collimator, little sort of aiming point essentially, and so that was
Nice.
pretty cool. Definitely a cool little job.
You learnt the 777 at the same time, or
yeah, so we learnt the 777 on our IETs because that's what everyone was using. So, and we did like maybe 2 field X's, I think, using those guns. Like we didn't use them as much, but we still did. But yeah, so mainly we were using the 105mm guns, and we were there for the final shoot of those guns before they got completely decommissioned. So that was pretty cool. We were there for the end.
you said you were pretty scrawny and fucking upper body weak at the time. How'd you go with all the heavy weight?
I struggled. Mate, to be like, I joined the army at the minimum standard of fitness. Like the PFA, like the pre-enlistment fitness assessment was like I'd be blowing after that. That was a grind, and so then I joined, and being at that minimum fitness, that was hard. Like everything was a challenge, and you're running everywhere, you're lifting so much. Like it was a big culture shock. And I do remember I had pain in my knee, and now understanding biomechanics a little bit more and all that, I think that would have been a weak glute. That would have then been pulling my patella over and causing that sort of pain, because you were just taking a knee everywhere, what I mean? So then like that. So I struggled with fitness. Most people that I speak to, they lose weight when they go to Kapuka. I gained weight. I gained about 10 kilos.
Oh, wow.
Like just eating and lifting. Yeah. So I got bigger, but I was still just scrawny. But I think because I'm so tall, like I was just able to just use my back to lift everything. You can
everything
just compensate.
you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything that you shouldn't do, that's what I did. Yeah, so it was just a hard slug, just always getting hurt.
Did you have many injuries early on?
Not serious ones, no. I think I like broke my toe. No, that was getting out of the shower, so that's not like I just kicked my toe because I've got such long, gangly legs. I did that. I fractured my middle knuckle because back when with the 105mm, how you loaded it is you had to have a closed fist at the base of the cartridge, and then you'd push that up, and then the breech would close upwards, and so you'd basically, we always say you're punching rounds because you would literally just punch it into the chamber and then it would close. So you have to have a closed fist because otherwise you could lose a finger in the whole mechanism. So, and I remember like it just got jammed for some reason, and I remember the detachment command was like, punch that fucking round home, you pussy. And I'm like, oh, and I'm just laying into this cartridge, and just my knuckle was just like huge. And I had grinding feelings for ages, like ow.
Oh yeah, never sort of it.
No, of course not. Yeah, same with my broken toe. I was just running around with a limp for a few weeks. Everyone's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing." Because you're just so scared to put your hand up and say, "I've got an injury," especially in your first year in the army. You're just like, "Nope, not going to be that guy."
Acknowledge that.
Nope. So I hid that. I didn't really get like too much back pain or anything like that. I suppose just that was fine. That wasn't until I went to Brisbane, and then you lifting the heavier rounds. That was where the back pain came in later.
So you posted straight from Geelong or near Geelong, up to Brisbane.
Yeah, so did my year posting at the School of Artillery, and then posted to Brisbane to One Reg, and then I stayed there for the remainder of my career, technically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is just really fortunate. Most people, you're lucky to get 3 or 4 years in Brisbane, and I got 8 or 9 years.
Seems to be a pretty common fucking situation, though. The people that are here have been here for fucking forever.
Yeah, because you just find a way. You find a way to.
I'm going to post you to Darwin. Fucking go through some.
Yeah, you just go through the list. No, I've just bought a house here. No, I've just done this. I've got a special needs kid. Yeah, like all that. You just come up with whatever reason you can to get that posting extended. And you tell your career officer sweet nothings like, oh no, I think like you got to sell it to them like how it's going to benefit them. Like no, because I'll do a year here in this senior position, and then that will in a familiar environment. So I'll be able to learn things a lot quicker, and then I'll be able to go to the next posting, and then then you get a new career advisor, and you just tell them different sweet nothing. So,
game in the system.
Yeah, you just got to game the system, mate. It plays you, so you got to learn how to play it. So, no, I had some fortunate situations that helped with that for sure. And yeah, we can go into that later as it comes up. But yeah, so did that, and then posted to One Reg.
How long? Was there any memorable moments or anything from your time down south before we came up north? Other than stubbing your toe in the shower.
Look, I've got fond memories of my time in Parker because that, again, coming from a pretty regimented household, and then, leaving home and also just navigating, newly becoming a young adult, with all of the freedoms that come with that. Plus you're surrounded by other people in the same boat, you'd get up to some pretty big mischief, and, it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about, how alcohol affects the body, I learned a lot about that, a lot of partying and doing that. So, apart from, just firing those older guns and everything like that, no, there wasn't too many memorable moments, I suppose. It was just a whole year of learning life, I suppose, as well as learning the job. And
yeah, you're pretty much coming into adulthood as you
exactly.
stepped in there.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a really just a big changing time, you've got freedom, you live by yourself in a little room on base, and it's you can do whatever you want now. Oh, okay, cool. What choices do you make? I made a few bad ones, but I made a few good ones as well.
Usually involves alcohol and girls.
Yeah. Yeah, or a burrito or something like that, So yeah, we had some good times there for sure. And then
how long did the relationship last once you were?
Oh, maybe 6 months, I reckon. Yeah. I just wasn't mature, wasn't able to be that person, wasn't suitable for any relationship really. I was just bright-eyed and wild-eyed and bushy-tailed, just being a young adult.
Yeah, young. With another way to look at it.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just an idiot, just not emotionally connected or vulnerable or anything like that. So just not ready for a relationship. Really, wasn't suitable for that. So
your mum and stepdad supportive of you getting in, and
yeah, they were always supportive of it, and yeah, obviously, I think my mum wanted me to go to uni and everything like that, but she knew that the army was what I wanted to do, and she knew it would be a good thing, so she was always supportive of that. And especially because I got in and had that deferral, it was always a safety net as well. So, but yeah, family were always super supportive, and really proud. A lot of people I speak to, they had family members that served before them, and that's part of their motivation. But for me, no one in the family served. It was just
really?
Yeah, my pop was in the police force, but that was it. Yeah, so there was no influence from that by any means. So I was the first to do it really, and it was pretty interesting for sure.
It's because it sounded cool and
yeah, exactly. It was cool. You get to fire big guns and shoot stuff, and it was awesome. Yeah, I definitely got no regrets about joining.
Was it a small town sort of where you're from?
Well, no, because we lived 15 minutes out of the city, just out in the bush. So, no, I wouldn't say that I was a small town kid. I suppose just
trying to escape the country life.
Well, one thing I've found, and I haven't really looked back at it now, but I always used to think, and I still do really, is that Geelong is it's a city of hermits. No one wants to leave Geelong. Everyone's just quite happy just to stay there because they've got everything that they need, And I remember at 18, I was let's go to Melbourne or something. Melbourne's only an hour away. Wow, why would you go to Melbourne? Got it right here. We've got clubs and bars here. It's not the same as Melbourne, though, So, a lot of people that I've got a mate who's down there as a police officer now, and he still bumps into people that would drop kicks at school, and they're still there, because he's a cop there now, and he's pulling them over, and he's he's still going nowhere, mate. Yeah, 100%. But Geelong is a beautiful place. It's a really nice city. I haven't been back for, God, 6-7 years. I think it's been quite a while since I've gone back. But
How do you still speak to your mum and that?
yeah. Mum lives up in Gladstone.
Oh, okay. She moved up north.
Yeah, she moved up north. Yeah, so I see her a couple of times a year now, so that's really good. She's the closest family member, as in like geographically. Everyone else is spread apart. So
You got siblings?
yeah, I've got one brother with he lives with mum. He's severely autistic. So that was definitely a challenge, I suppose, as a kid growing up, because
What's the age difference?
15 months. He's 15 months younger, so he's nearly
Okay.
he'd be coming up to 30 this year. Yes. Yeah, this year. Yeah, this year. Actually, this month is his 30th. It's in a few days. I should probably organise something. I think this podcast will release the day before his birthday or the day after. So,
Okay.
yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. So, yeah, no, yeah, we're not close. Like, you know what I mean? He's because
Non-verbal.
he's verbal. He just talks. He talks in reciting. You know what I mean? So like. It's hard to describe, but like he sees shows and TV ads and stuff on YouTube, and that's what he repeats. Like it's sort of like a parrot, like mimicking. Just mimics. Yeah, exactly. So doesn't like socializing, you know what I mean? Like he'll say hello to you and everything like that, but then after that he's just wants to get away, just wants to go to his room and play his video games and do that, and it's that's who he is. He's always been like that. And when we were growing up, my parents did try to sort of, force him to be more verbal and everything like that. But I think now everyone's just realised, like, you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole. It's just not who he is. Like,
it's pretty hard to understand what's going on when it's in your own family that way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and so yeah, like that's my only sibling, and then yet it still felt like being an only child in a way, because you don't have that typical sibling bond. Like obviously love him as a brother, and I would stand up for him. I remember I got into a fist fight at school because this kid just he paid out my brother, said something bad about my brother, and he was always pissing me off. And then like I'm not a fighter. Like anyone who knows me, I'm not a fighter. And this kid, he was just saying shit on the bus, and I just got off the bus, and he said something. He probably said "Have a nice day" or something. I'd already made my decision. I'm like, I'm going to knock this kid out, and I did. And I flattened him, and then walked away. And usually you'd get expelled, but all the teachers were like, "No, we're going to let this one go. He had it coming." they're like, yeah, he's a little shit. So, that's it. I didn't really have that sort of sibling connection, and I was probably pretty mean to him as well, just getting frustrated with him, because as a teenager and as a kid, like you don't really understand autism properly. You're already going through your own sort of development and hormones and frustrating.
Blaming them for not being...
Yeah. Like, what do you mean you can't? Like, I just want to kick the ball with you, and, he just doesn't want to do it. And you're like, oh, like, so, yeah, it's definitely hard.
You think the stress of that had something to do with your parents breaking up, or...
I don't know. Like like mum and dad divorcing, it would have had to have had something. Like, it would have had to have been a factor. I think Dad said that it wasn't there, wasn't present in the time. It was focused on the business and all that sort of stuff, and just wasn't there. So yeah, that's.
I worked for well, not worked. There was like a uni placement we had to do. I think it was like 6 weeks working with autistic kids as part of our children with disability qualifications.
Yep.
And yeah, like from non-verbal to sort of semi-verbal and stuff, but yeah, exactly what you're saying, mimicking and stuff like that. I don't talk at all unless it's to mimic. Like one of the kids would like hit his brother, and then the mum would say, "Don't hit your brother," and then he'd just say, "Don't hit your brother, don't hit your brother, don't hit your brother."
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. And or like they might like something like, hot chips or whatever, and they'll just say that over and over again.
Yeah. Have you ever watched that show Love on the Spectrum?
I've watched snippets of it, but my
Yeah.
ex-wife used to love it.
Yeah, it's
She used to watch it and be like, I think I'm on this page.
yeah. Whenever you watch them, I find it funny because they'll introduce someone, they'll be like, "This is Daniel. Daniel likes swords, brown couches, and peas." Like, and you're like, that's so random. But then there's also lots of other things. You go into every like all of their bedrooms and stuff where they live, and they've always got like a collection of swords and stuff. And I watch them like, fuck yeah, that's cool.
That's a sick collection.
Oh, that's sick. They're like playing video games. I'm like, that's pretty cool too. It's like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely on the spectrum. The more I reflect on it, I'm like, yeah, there's definitely something going on there.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
like
In the
right
family.
now we're making some pretty good eye contact, but that I have to deliberately do that. I have
Yeah,
to
right.
focus on doing that. It's a conscious decision. I don't like eye contact. I don't.
You don't have to. You can...
It's weird though. I'm not going to look at the camera. Yeah, so like I definitely got some factors there for sure, but you know.
No, the reason I was asking about your parents is in that there might have been 20 kids there, so 40 parents, and none of them were still together. Like it just became such a fucking wedge in between the relationship.
100%. It is so hard. Honestly, I like thinking about, you know, like now being a parent and then thinking about what it would take as a parent to look after and care for someone. Like obviously autism is a spectrum disorder.
Yeah,
you know, there are people like me, for example, who are undiagnosed but probably sit somewhere on that spectrum, have got some of the conditions, some of the factors, and are able to manage it fine. And then there are other people like my brother who need some form of care all the time. And then as a child, like trying to teach them when they learn completely differently and all that sort of stuff, like it's very time consuming. And then, you know, if it requires a solid team to do that. And so if, you know, if the parents aren't that unified front and that team, it's not going to work. I understand how, like, it's definitely puts a lot of strain on a relationship for sure.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of your life just becomes about that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
Financially as well, because you've got all the care and stuff.
like extra
Especially
care
before NDIS came into the picture.
Yeah, exactly. So it puts a big strain for sure. I can understand why families really struggle in that scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. You still talk to him and catch up? A little bit.
Catch up with, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. You can't.
How you going, bro?
How you going? Good. And then he'll just like look away again and just do his thing. Like doesn't want to hang out, you know, doesn't want to chat. Like he's just happy doing his thing. So yeah, that'll be, I always know that that's something that when my parents are gone and in the ground, like that's going to be something that I'm going to have to manage and look after him and care for him. And I'll always do that because he's my brother. I love him. But yeah, he's going to need some form of support. And then NDIS will be there. Well, hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully it's still around.
Hopefully it's still around and it hasn't been abolished. But there's definitely something that I am aware of is going to be something I'm going to have to look after, and it's all right. It's all part of it. Yeah. But
cool. All right, so fucking don't know where we were on the timeline now. But came to Brisbane.
We're in Brisbane.
Yeah. Supportive.
Yeah.
Broke up with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Free agent.
Came to Brizzy. And then, you know, had some girlfriends, had some, you know, some adventures with mates, and again, still just in that digger sort of lifestyle where you just, you know, 19, 20 years old. And
where was the go-to, the Vic?
No, the Vic was always good on a Thursday, if I remember. Thursday nights at the Vic was good. It was always cheap. You'd get like $6 pints of Carlton Dry, I remember back then. So you'd just go there. But we went... My favourite place back then was called TBC. It was called the Bowler Club. It was basically... It's on the end of Brunswick Street or corner of Brunswick and Ann or something like that. It's just basically this basement, this underground dungeon that was just always like pitch black except for the lights at the DJ, and that always just plays filthy house music, and I just absolutely loved it. You know, because I was like I was into DJing back then and doing all that. So I was a big purveyor of that music and the scene and the underground music and all that sort of stuff. So that was always a go-to. We had a few other places that we would love to go to. I do remember that there was a few months where we just went out pretty much every night because there was always a place to go. You know, it was like Thursday was Birdies because it was uni night, and then Friday you'd go somewhere else. Saturday you go to the bowler club. Sunday you'd go to the Fox on in South Bank, the rooftop bar there. That was always good. Mondays was I think it was called the Down Under Bar or the Down Under Club in the city.
DUB, Down Under Bar.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, it was like a backpacker bar. I think Tuesday was your night off, and then Wednesday was the regatta. So that was you'd spend your entire paycheck just going out, and then you'd be eating at the mess or like I do remember one guy was like stealing ration packs from the Q store and just eating ration packs in his room on base.
Fucking disgusting.
Yeah, that's next level. And like financially, I was cooked as well. Like I think I had like a $2,000 overdraw on my account, and that just became my bank account. Like I just constantly lived in the overdraw. You know, so debt was bad, and yeah, just making those poor decisions, but I don't regret them because it's part of growing up and becoming an adult. I think it was just an eventful time for sure.
So how much time in Artie do you spend outfield?
God,
in those digger days.
Yeah, you'd spend maybe 3 to 4 months outfield, I reckon, on most years. Some years you'd maybe spend 5. You'd do like it just depended on the flavor of the year, you know, like what the unit planned. But and you know, back then we had that whole readying offline sort of 3-year phase cycle that the brigades would go through. So if you were readying, you were going on outfield so much. You pretty much the whole cycle for the year was pretty much you'd prep for field. You'd go outfield, you'd clean up after field, and then you'd be prepping for field and going outfield. It was just this constant cycle. And then because I had the luxury of being at the same unit for so long, you'd actually be able to predict the year ahead because every exercise was the same. You know, you'd be like, for anyone who's been at One Reg, exercise Bass, everyone knows that that's the worst exercise of the year because it's in March and it's just a horrible time of the year to be at Shoalwater Bay because it's just so hot, humid, but it also gets cold at night, and you can't acclimatise. The mosquitoes are cooked. The ticks are bad if you're up certain parts of the range. Like it's always just a bad time. Like it always just rains so much that your feet get rotten or something like that, or everyone goes down with heat stroke or something. Like it's just. Yeah, some eye-opening experiences, but yeah, field was always pretty much the same thing, you know. I think me and my mates we reflect now. Back in those earlier days when we were diggers, field used to be so much more fun because how we did it is because with artillery, you're either in a mission. It used to be that you're either on or you're off. Like so, if you're in a mission, it's jobs on. It's you know, that is everything to us. We're firing that mission. But then after you've done your mission and you've cleaned up and you've prepped, you're ready to go for another one, it would just be like, chill out. Like people would be sleeping. We were playing cards. I remember we had like a whole casino under one of our stand easies. We had like we had a little miniature roulette wheel that we used like a ball bearing with. And we were like, funny thing, I remember we were playing this roulette strategy. We were like simulating it, so you'd have your little notepad out and you'd be like, all right, I've withdrawn 400 from the casino. This is my 400 worth of chips, and then you'd play it and you'd be playing it for hours, and then after a week or so, you're like, all right, I'm up, $6,000.
Oh shit!
Okay, cool. Like I've got a strategy. It works, And then we got back from field and went straight to the casino and applied the same strategy, lost it all. Turns out that $10 Kmart roulette wheel isn't actually unbiased or anything like that. It's not perfectly, the bearings in it aren't that good. So it does actually favour certain numbers. Turns out there is no foolproof strategy. So that was a learning experience. Yeah, no, lots of those sorts of field X's.
Do you get a fair bit of warning before a fire mission, or you'd be like playing roulette and they'll be like fire mission battery and you fucking job on?
Bit of both. I mean, especially in those earlier years, I remember there was no warning. It was just fire mission, and it was always when you started eating your meal, like you'd have food ready, and you've been cooking it, and you're like, oh, cool, finally get to sit down and eat this dinner, and then you'd take that first mouthful, and it'd be fire mission battery, and you just put it down, and then you'd come back after the mission, and the ants have just eaten all your food, and you're like, fuck. just devastating. So, that was always the thing. It was just, you wouldn't know, and then it'd just be fire mission. Oh, we're on, and if you were just in your jocks, bad luck, you're in your jocks, and you've been changing. Yeah, that was always the thing. Like, that was a thing. It was noodle-oom, so if dudes would be sleeping nude in their sleeping bags or their farters, and you'd get an illumination mission in the middle of the night. For those who don't understand, basically, you're firing a projectile that it detonates up in the sky, and the base ejects out of it, and it drops out all of these flares, basically, that illuminate the whole battle space, so that we can see and our observers can see. So we would fire those, and obviously you're firing them at night and everyone's asleep, and then it's like fire mission, and like it's like no time to get dressed, boys. Just get out there and get these rounds at down range. Let's go. So, and that was just like a funny thing. Like guys are just butt naked, just firing the guns. Complete no from an OH&S perspective. People have got their body armor and helmet and no clothes on. People are carrying heavy rounds with no boots or anything like that. Just waiting for a toe to get crushed. But yeah, that was always pretty funny. A cool thing that we would also do was at night, similar sort of thing, was final protective fire. So basically the observers, they would pinpoint a target. They'd say, this is where, if we're getting attacked, we want rounds to land here, and then that will sort of cover our escape. So that we would load and lay on that target ready to go, and then we'd go to bed. All right. And just be like, no one touch that gun. And you go to bed, and then you would just hear in the middle of the night, it would just come over the radio, fire. And then it was always this thing, whoever's first to the gun fires it. Like, if you get there first, you fire it. And like, if I'm a heavy sleeper, so I would just wake up to the gun going, bang, holy fuck. And you just running out there and just, get these rounds out. Yeah, so that was a funny thing as well that we would do.
That's why you can't hear anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tinnitus. Yeah, it's played a part. Sure.
I saw a reel the other day. I think it was an American Army where like someone's like sleeping against a truck, and the whole gun is just like all like sneaking up.
Yeah.
Oh,
fuck. Yeah. You see photos where, like, especially, of course, the Yanks, they've got one finger in one ear, and then they need the other hand to point to the guy and go, oh, so then that ear is just getting completely fragged, like with noise.
Yeah.
So, or like, back in the, like, I do remember seeing a photo, some guy's just literally just crouching and putting his hands over his ears.
Oh, yeah, you see that all the time.
Yeah, it's like, far out. So,
yeah. So you artillery boys are pretty well known for your nudity.
Antics,
your love of nudity.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have a lot of that, a lot of what would they call it, skylarking or hazing, a lot of that sort of funny sort of activity, I suppose.
For like first time outfield sort of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. It would just be, I mean, like, it'd be stuff like that, or you'd just do a ration pack challenge, like, all right, you've got to eat everything in the ration pack, like, in front of everyone, go. And like, that's including, you've got to eat the tea bag, you've got to eat the sauce, you got to eat all these meals, like the dried mashed potato and the dehydrated food, you got to eat it all. And then, like, if they haven't spewed by then, it'd be like, also you got to run over to that tree and back and then do like 50 burpees, and you're just making them suffer until they spew,
What happened to you? You remember?
God, what did happen? I didn't get it too bad, to be honest. I I can't even remember now. I remember I just got just bullied pretty much for a while. I didn't really get hazed too much, I suppose. I sort of managed to slide under the radar, but I was always amongst it. Like I don't think I never really got like targeted individually for it. I just, we just have to do stupid shit. It was like, all right, you got to do that. I'd always be wearing a dress to the function or something like that. Like just silly things like that. But then I remember like people wouldn't want to, like, I wasn't the new guy. I was already well established, and the new kids wouldn't want to, do the new challenge or something like that to be initiated. And I'd be like, oh, screw it, I'll do it. I'll do it for a laugh. Again, liking the attention, So, yeah, I did all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's always been a thing for Artie, I suppose. I've always just had those sorts of things. I'll tell the story. I know you're trying to bait it out of me. So the story is basically there's this old tradition that went back like 20 years, where basically these guys, like the new guys, would all have to just get nuded up. They'd have to wear boots and a helmet, and they would have to run because all of the guns on an artillery position are usually in a straight line, and they're about maybe 50, 100 meters apart. And so you'd have to basically run from your gun, reach each of the other guns, and then get back to your gun. And everyone else, like back in the day, would just chase after you and bash you if they caught you. By the time that I was in, you'd probably just get rugby tackled and maybe a little jab to the ribs or something like that, and that was the end of it. It was always just a funny thing that someone would do at the cover of darkness, usually at a time where morale's pretty low, and they'd be like, righto, we're going to do this. And it's important to note that they would also be covered in glow stick fluid. So there's this butt naked dude running glowing green and making Zoidberg noises like whoop, 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 whoop. And you'd just hear like some sergeant like, fucking get him. And all these guys are chasing after him to catch him. It's just so stupid. Like when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, God, this is embarrassing. But it was so funny back then, like when you did it. So yeah, there was this incident that happened. I was I'd been a Lance Jack for about 12 months nearly, 9 months or so. And I was stepping up into the role of a full track basically of a Bombardier. So I was in charge of my own gun, but I was still getting a little bit of supervision here and there to make sure, as part of their risk assessment. Anyway, we had a pause of the exercise. So, everyone's just chilling out. Dudes were going for a swim in the dam and stuff, that afternoon. And then late in the evening, the new guy on my detachment comes up and he's like, oh, we want to do that thing. And I'm like, sure, why not? This seems like a great idea. This is a perfect time, perfect opportunity. Everyone's feeling pretty good. Yeah, what could go wrong? So I'm like covering him in silent. I'm like, go on, get your pants off. Let's go. Like, just getting him in. And he's like, yeah, like he volunteered to do this. I'm like, this is pretty unique. Usually we'd have to tell someone to do this, but all right, cool. And we've put it out over the radio. Oh, there's a wild bush turkey, that's been sighted. Like, keep an eye out. And then he would just be running. Now the problem is, so we're positioned on a road, or just off of a road, pretty much. So we were sort of in a line on a track, and there's a dam in front of us. And so logically, you'd go, okay, we're on the far right-hand flank. So all he's got to do is just run to each of those guns, and then he can just hook a right and go in front of the dam, and then just do this big lap around, and he'll get back to our gun. Like, sure, that's the plan, right? No. This kid, he gets to the end of the guns. Instead of turning right to go around the dam, he goes left and just starts heading off the track, like into the bush, pretty much, like down this road that I didn't know where that went. And I was like, oh, fuck, okay. And this kid is so fast. Like, he's the fastest runner. He would have been 18 or 19. He's the fastest runner. He would have been 60 kilos ringing wet. No one can catch you. And people are chasing after him. And so because he's gone left and there's bush behind us, I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to go left and then he's going to go left into the bush and then come back through the bush, like, smart. No, he didn't do that. He went right into the bush, so further away from us. And he went into the bush just to like hide and catch his breath, which is pretty silly because he's glowing green. But he's so far ahead that no one can see him. And then he's gotten attacked by a wild boar.
Oh,
okay. So this boar, with tusks and everything. I didn't say it, but this is his attestation. He's been chased further into the bush now. He's ended up in a dam or something, like he's, nearly drowned. He's evaded the boar. The boar's left him alone. And now he's in the middle of the bush, disoriented, no idea where he is.
Fuck yeah, no.
And he's lost, right? And he goes trudging in the bush for, would have been probably an hour and a half or 2 hours. He's walking, like, exploring nude. And, like, after about half an hour after it started, we're all like, where is he? Like, he's got, like, some crazy plan. And then I think after about 45 minutes or an hour, we're like, okay, this is fuck. Where is he? And we were all convinced that because the sergeants that we had on our position were both like practical jokers. We were like, they've caught him and hit him, and we're like trying to get it out of him. Like, what have you done with him? Like, we haven't got him. So we were in such denial for so long. Eventually I'm out. I'm like leading the charge in a vehicle. I've got my head out of the hatch and I'm calling out to him like a lost kitten going, where are you, mate? We're not chasing after you anymore. Just come back. Like, where has he gone? And then it's come over the radio. Yeah, you can stop searching for him. He's been found. I'm like, oh, thank God. And they're like, yeah, he's at Battle Group headquarters. Like, oh, no. And so, yeah, what's turned out is he's trudged all the way through the bush and he's ended up on a road, still a road within the training area, but like one of the main roads. And then, a car has, like a whole convoy has driven past him. And then small world, our friend Paul, he was the observer one of the observer trainers there, like just running the exercise. And he's just gone, what the fuck? Picked him up and gone, what the hell's going on? He's like, I was just doing this thing. Can you just take me back to One Reg? And they're like, I don't know where that is. I'm just going to take you to your CO, and just dropped him off at Battle Group headquarters. There's just this nude guy walking through Battle Group headquarters and just gets dumped in the Battle Group command post going, he's one of yours apparently. And like, it's just gotten so bad. It's like, no. So obviously they launched a massive investigation.
Do the officers not usually privy to what goes on down there?
They didn't have any control over it, like we didn't let them know, hey, we're going to do this, nor did we say, hey, by the way, someone's going to get lost and end up in
but do they know that you do those fucking nudie runs?
Junior officers probably wouldn't know, but older officers would know about it. They'll probably pretend that they didn't know.
Let them do it.
Yeah, whatever, it's harmless fun.
Yeah.
As long as no one gets hurt and I don't have to do paperwork.
until this night.
Until this night, yeah, 100%. So obviously they launched a massive investigation. They called us all in one at a time and to give our story of events. And they asked me, do you feel responsible? I'm like, well, I'm partly responsible. Like, I had the ability to stop it and I didn't stop it. I didn't know that it was going to get this out of hand. Like, it's never in the history has it ever happened like this. This has been going on for 20 years. But yeah, I feel somewhat responsible. And because that was like an admission of guilt. I was put under investigation. I lost that promotion that I was going to get, and because you can't be promoted if you're under formal investigation. I've heard that it went all the way up to Army headquarters, and they wanted me gone. They were like, "Get rid of him," because they obviously have to assume the worst. They're like, this guy was getting harassed. They ripped his clothes off him, and then he fled. And good on him. He told the truth. He was just like, no, like, I volunteered to do this. This is a tradition, like, that's been going on for so long. Like, I wanted to do it. And then they actually asked around all the other regiments and said, like, is this actually a thing? And they're like, yeah, of course it is. So all of our stories checked out, and they were like, oh, okay. So they didn't put the blame on me. They were like, it's not an individual problem. This is a cultural problem within the Corps. But I was warned, like, if you're ever involved in anything like this again, like, you're gone. I'm like, yep, fair enough. Like, lesson learnt. Had to do like an apology and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it was crazy.
Fuck.
So yeah, I ended up getting promoted like 15 months later. But yeah, so it held me back a bit, and yeah. But it's just it's a long lasting legacy now. If someone asks me, what's your legacy that you left in the army? Like, well, I was
I cancelled the Siloon run.
I cancelled the Siloon run, yeah. Because you'd ask, someone would go, what uni? And one ridge, you're those guys that did that thing. And like, they're people from the other side of the country, and they've heard the story. Like, it went viral amongst the community. Yeah, it was pretty funny. So yeah, really, just an example of something just getting wildly out of hand beyond anyone's comprehension. It was crazy.
This kid fucking taking lefts and rights.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously the next time we did it, we tied his laces together so he couldn't run. So no, we never did it again. People would always joke, "Are we going to do that?" I'm like, "No, we're not doing that."
Put him on a 20-meter rope.
Yeah. Put him on a leash so he can't get too far. Yeah, so. Yeah, pretty funny, but that's an example of where it just got so eating. So much
fucking funny. What was he like? Was he fucking? You think it was hilarious?
Yeah. Oh, look, I think he was a little bit traumatized from the incident. Mate, if that ball got him, it could, for as bad as it went, it could have gone way worse. Like, he could have actually gotten proper lost, and we would have had to launch a massive search party for him, or he got attacked by that ball and actually got hurt. Like, thankfully, he didn't get hurt or anything like that. So. Also, he could have just, if he wanted to get like a massive compensation and everything like that, he could have just lied and said, yeah, they tried to bash me and all this sort of stuff. And, like, he could have really thrown everyone under the bus and made up a big lie. But
you still know him?
I know of him. I haven't chatted with him in years and years. I think he's still in. Pretty sure he's like a Bombardier now, probably. Should be by now. So. Yeah, good on him. Good on him. He's the guy that ruined it for everyone.
Cool story for him too.
Yeah, funny.
So how long were you in before you got Lance Jack? Bombardier.
Yeah, so I...
Bomber Corporal?
No. I think I would have been... 3 years or 3.5 years. Yeah, I think it was 3.5 years I'd been in by the time I got made up in, it would have been December 2016. Yeah, so 3.5 years after I joined. So I did that, and I was supposed to get promoted to Bombardier the next December. Everything was in line until that. But yeah, that got held back for quite a while. And then in 2018, at the end of 2018, I got deployed, thankfully. I was really, really lucky. So, and a testament of how I managed to sort of bounce back, and everyone's still, I wasn't put on the shit list for eternity. I was still allowed to deploy. So, yeah, I got that trip in November or December 2018.
What was that one?
Task Group Taji, part of Operation Okra. So we were deployed to Iraq, and our role was, I was in a training team, so our role was to teach the Iraqi soldiers how, to do basic infantry tactics and stuff like that, and basic war fighting, because at the time ISIS were still, based up in Mosul, I believe, up in the north side of Iraq. So they were still taking heavy casualties against from ISIS. So that was our role over there, was teaching them. But by the time, like, throughout our trip specifically was more one of the transition ones. So we were teaching them at the start of my trip, and by the end of it, we were just supervising them teach their own soldiers.
Oh yeah.
So our trip's main purpose was actually teaching the teachers, train the trainer sort of role.
Yeah.
We would assess how they managed a squad and, what their training program was and all that sort of stuff. So
You're still a Lance bomber?
I was still a Lance bomb, yep, and I got made up to Bombardier 2 months before the deployment finished in May. So yeah, the deployment finished in June, end of June, and I got made up in May. So
It's nice.
yeah,
Got made up over there.
Yeah, got promoted up there. Yeah, got the gong at the same time. Yeah, so that was really cool. Like to get deployed over there. So,
how long was that trip?
It was supposed to be 6 months, and it got extended to 7 months because there was a problem with the relieving rotations visas. They had a visa problem, so we got extended another month. So,
oh
well.
Who were you there with? With the battery or?
It was one reg led. It was our trip, I suppose. Yeah, a few people from each of the batteries came, for sure. So
were you with infantry dudes as well, or? Yeah,
there was infantry guys that were there for the they were there more for the guardian angel sort of roles, like the force protection element. And then Paul, he was there for his. They had a whole company, Sierra Company, I believe it was, and they were more responsible for the specialist training, so sniper training and heavy weapons training and that sort of stuff. So so there was a group of infantry that were teaching that sort of role, but my company and that we were just the basic plebs, just teaching the
basic soldiering,
just the basic soldiering stuff. Yeah, to be honest, artillery. We sometimes we call ourselves. I joke that we're infantillery because we're they get us to do infantry minor tactics, but we suck at it so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to teach a certain infantry skill, and I'd be going up to my force protection guy going, so how would you do this? Getting him to give me a 5-minute rundown on it, and then I'd go and teach it to this Iraqi guy like I'm an expert. But just the way that they would do things, we would teach room clearances, for example, just basic urban ops training. So you need to go you need to pie the door, you need to go through the entrance, and then go straight to aiming to that. I think it's called a point of domination. This corner here, which is your highest threat, is going to be in there. So you need to go in and then walk to there. And they were just like, no, we don't do it that way. I'm like, okay, well, how do you do it then? And then they were just like, grenade, and just throw a grenade. And I'm like, what if you've got civilians in there? And they just laughed. It's like,
oh god,
yeah. I'm like, you guys have got to do it this way. And they would always argue with, ways of how they were going to do, we do it this way. And I'm like, yeah, I know you do. And that's why you're taking so many casualties, so
that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. We're here to teach you how to do it properly. I think a sad moment for us was that whilst we were over there was one of the companies, they asked us, like one of the brigades that we were training, they asked us, we'd love to do counter ambush training, and because that's something we'd really like to learn. And we pushed it up, and it was like, nah, it's not on the training program, so we don't have time for it. And then sure enough, about a month later, a couple of weeks later, that group got completely wiped out by an ambush about 10 Ks away from the base. Yeah. So, and you're like, far out, all those guys that you've just been training for 10 weeks, they're all just gone, and they died to something because they asked, can we learn this?
Coming to.
Yeah. So that was a bit of an eye opener. It just shows you just brought it back to reality. You're like, this is why we're doing it.
How far into the trip was that?
I reckon it was about halfway, maybe a little bit further. I think by that stage, I'd already started to get a little bit over it. It felt kind of pointless because they were just so resistant to a lot of the training.
Mm.
So and you sort of knew that they would just go back to their ways after it, sort of thing. Because one thing I learnt is that the Iraqi people that we dealt with, I think it was in their culture to be very proud. They're very proud people. And so to learn something from you is to acknowledge that they don't know it. It's to acknowledge that they're wrong, and the teachers, the guys training their soldiers, they don't want to look like they don't know
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So for them to take your advice and teach your way is them showing that they're to the guys below them that they don't know it. So it was like it was a big sort of cultural sort of tension, I suppose, with them. And so that's where we got that sort of mindset, like they're just going to go back to doing the way that they do it because that's what they know, it's what they're comfortable with, and it's what it makes them feel proud in themselves. So
did losing that unit halfway through sort of reaffirm why you're there and make it easier, or?
It should have, but it definitely put it into perspective. It reminded you, hey, one, there's ambushes happening only about 10 kilometers away from us. And then two, that, there is a real purpose to it. But it sort of at the same time made it feel kind of fruitless because you're like, damn, we just invested 8 weeks training those guys and they're all dead now. So it was like a real eye opener for sure. I think, and because we obviously got extended by another month, that last month we were just so over it. You're just like, you guys aren't listening to us. It felt very pointless, which was hard because when you first go over there, I had the whole thing like, I'm going to help make a real big difference and all that sort of stuff. And by the end of it, you're just like, that felt like a waste of time. It felt like a waste of taxpayers' money to go over there. I mean, I learned a lot from it. So I gained a lot from that deployment, but I don't know whether the Iraqis did. Hopefully they did. Hopefully some of the guys that I taught are still alive. I'd really hope so. I did make some good connections. My interpreter I really admired. He was really good. Ahmed Al-Gabawi. I don't
See on Facebook.
I've tried finding him. It's not there. I don't know whether he's still alive or not. But he was really, really good. And just having that like connection with like having your own personal interpreter, basically, that was always really good.
Oh, yeah.
Learning about how like their cultural differences and everything like that was very eye opening, and it just makes you appreciate Australia more. I see people in Australia there that have never left Australia or anything. They haven't even just travelled to Europe or something. And they don't have that appreciation for how good we have it here in Australia. Like, yeah, times are tough at the moment with, cost of living and all that sort of stuff, but we've got it so good compared to other countries. Like, it truly is a magnificent gift that we have to live in Australia. And driving around the training area in Iraq and you're just looking at just, stuff from the Cold War and stuff. Like there's, no, not the Cold War, Gulf War, wasn't it? Whatever.
Yeah, Persian Gulf.
Yeah. So like, there's still just relics and of war there. Just everything just blown up. Like just the living conditions that they're in. I'm pretty sure that their chief medical guy on the base was a dentist. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you got injured, you would not want to be, getting treated there. Like it was just, yeah, we've got it so good here.
100%.
So that was really good.
What was your living situation when you were there? Were you in a big sort of fortified area, or?
So we lived in what we called the Green Zone, which was like it was a SOSI-owned, a SOSI compound. So basically it was a compound that was managed by the Americans. And so I lived in a demountable. There would be 2 people living in a demountable. Funny story, I lived with this Kiwi guy for 6 months. I wouldn't be able to tell you his name because by the time that I was like, damn, I don't know this guy's name, and it has been way too long to ask him his name. And I was trying, I was like looking.
Every day, he's like, morning, Rainer. You're like, g'day, mate.
Yeah. Okay, bro, what's going on? Just lived with him for 6 months. Wouldn't be able to tell you his name. And he would he had no shame. He would just sit on the phone, like having a video call with his wife and just having a full-on argument about something, and I would just hear it. It should be on speaker, and I'd know so much about his family and everything like that. Can't tell you his name.
He's got to watch this to be like, oh.
Yeah, no, that was pretty funny. But yeah.
You feel pretty safe in the compound?
Yeah. Like the risk to us was quite low, to be honest. But I lived I just did not take care of myself at all. I didn't really bond with my team. I didn't really have like a close friendship or anything with any of the guys that I deployed with. My saving grace was that my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she deployed with me as well.
Oh, yeah.
So very unique situation, I
You were
suppose.
partnered up before you went?
Yeah.
Nice.
So we had declared it, I believe, to our hierarchy, but they did us a solid and just kept it quiet until there was like, because we were both on the list to go overseas, so they just kept it quiet, didn't report it, and then we went overseas, and then about 3 months later, like we got called into the RSM's office, and he's like, I've been hearing that you guys are in a relationship, all that sort of stuff, but he was like, well, the fact that it's taken me 3 months to hear about it means that you're obviously doing the right things. You're not like holding hands in the mess hall or anything like that. So good on you. If we had have known about this beforehand, one of yous wouldn't have come.
Nice.
But yeah, so that was definitely a very unique experience. To deploy with your missus, but at the same time, it's helped us always because we go, well, if we got through Iraq together, and that was a hard time, like just being in that sort of elevated stress position, and because you're working 6 to 7 days a week and all that sort
Often
of stuff.
did you see each other around?
Every night.
Oh,
yeah. So because she worked in a completely different area, and then when she finished work, we'd then go to dinner and just have dinner together and chill out for a couple of hours after, watching something.
What corps was she in?
RAOC, so Ordnance Corps. Yeah, so she was like one of the supply chain managers for the Middle East, pretty much. So she was managing all the supplies that was coming into and out of that base.
Okay.
So yeah, and then it sucked for her because she worked much longer hours. She worked from like 9 till 4 or 9 till 5 or something, and I worked from, I don't know, 5:30, 6 o'clock to midday. Because we would only be working as long as the Iraqis were working, and they had other things that they were doing. So our training would finish at midday. I'd go have lunch, and then I've got the whole afternoon to do whatever I want. And most people would go to the gym or would take up a hobby or something. They were, building stuff for making the base more comfortable or something like that. People were building couches and tables and all that sort of stuff. And I just sat in my room and watched movies and played video games and ate junk food pretty much and just got fat. Just really didn't look after myself at all. And then at the same time, just being away from friends and family and all that sort of stuff, it just over time it got to me, and didn't realize at the time that I was, starting to become depressed, and just because it's not looking after yourself and just being in that environment all the time. And so that was tough. And
how long had you been in by at this stage?
I'd been in, what would it have been, 5.5, 6 years at that point.
Yeah.
I think I deployed at about 5.5 months. So I'd been in at about 6 years, I think, and then came back, and because I was like agitated and snappy and all that sort of stuff, I'd be real sort of frustrated easy and angry at the world, feeling more downs than ups consistently. And
you feel like that time over there, just sort of living in it and dwelling in it, was what caused it?
Yeah, I couldn't dig myself out of my own hole. Like I'll take some responsibility for it. Like I didn't look after myself. I didn't exercise regularly or eat. Look, it was an American mess hall, so there wasn't many healthy options to choose from. There was a lot of fried chicken and burgers and pasta and stuff like that. But I didn't make the healthiest of choices, and I didn't dig myself out of my own hole, and I didn't really have the tools or the ability to. Was
there alcohol available as well?
No alcohol over there, because everyone's always walking, with at least a 9mm on them at all times.
Oh yeah.
So I think you're playing with fire if everyone's got a loaded weapon and some alcohol in them.
Yeah.
So
like Vietnam.
Yeah. They didn't do that. So we had Carlton Zeros on Australia Day.
Oh, yeah.
It was nice. Okay. But one of the good things, one of the beauties, and I don't know how. Like now I look back, I'm like, how the hell did this work out for us? But my wife and I both, because if you spend 6 months overseas on warfighter, like it's not warfighter, warlike activities, what they call it in doctrine, you're entitled to relief out of country leave. So you get like 2.5, 3 weeks of leave, and they would say, oh, well, you can go either, to Australia, or we'll pay for a flight to Rome or the equivalent,
Oh, wow.
And everyone obviously staggers their leave throughout the whole deployment. And somehow the wife and I, or girlfriend at the time, both got we managed to get the same slot. And then we went to Europe together for 2 weeks, and we toured. We went from London to Paris to Berlin to Florence to Rome.
Oh, wow.
All in the space of about 2 weeks, and saw all the sights that you could see.
This is mid-trip?
I was probably more towards the end. It was in April, so we'd already been in for about 4 months.
Amazing.
So,
nice.
Yeah. So that was really, really fortunate, just to...
Well, you're still going through some personal stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think I found Europe more stressful than Taji, to be honest, because like I was running around, like organising, like making sure that we went to the right places, and we had tours and stuff booked, so it was pretty stressful. And because I was just starting to struggle with because I was starting to struggle with mental health, I was probably already at an elevated level of stress, so anything would have stressed me out really at that point. But yeah, so yeah, we did that deployment and then came back in June, and throughout that deployment I thought, like it'll be fine when I get back to Australia. Everything will go back to the way it is. Like I'm not here to have fun. Like of course I'm not going to be happy here. It's Iraq. Yeah, I came back and nothing really changed. I was still just bitter and irritable and down, and couldn't really relax or enjoy anything. And so yeah, it still took about 12 months for me to accept, hey, you've actually got some problems that you need to deal with. But yeah, eventually I decided to go reach out to Open Arms. Shout out to them. That was really good, just to have some counselling. That particular counsellor, it just didn't work with me. Like we didn't gel together. So I didn't really feel like I got much out of that. So I ended up scrapping that and then just trying to self-manage, which didn't work. And then about 12 months after I started getting help, I then went screw it, and then went to the RAP and actually said, look, I need some professional support. So then I got a referral for a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist diagnosed me with major depressive disorder, and then I gave me some light antidepressants. And unfortunately, what happens then is that the moment that you put your hand up in the army and say, hey, I need that support, and you get prescribed antidepressants, it changes everything. So you get downgraded, you can't handle weapons, you can't handle ammunition, you can't drive vehicles, which is pretty much all of my job. So you can't really do much, which really, really sucks, because all I wanted was just to get some treatment, get some help, and crack on. I don't want to be treated any differently. I just want to get on with it and just get the help that I need. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. And knowing the culture that Army has, that everyone's talking shit about you. Everyone's going, this guy's a sack, this guy's a linger, this guy's soft, like all that sort of stuff. And so and because you can't do certain aspects of your job, someone else has to do that for you now. So you've actually shifted workload onto other people. So in actual spec, it makes everything worse. It doesn't help you at all. I think, is it still the same, like in the mech system, like how they manage it?
No more weapon handling.
Yeah. So I had to fight with the doctor just to and my doctor was really, really good. And he was super understanding and approachable and really engaging with me. And I spoke to him about it, and we fought to get weapon handling allowed, so I could still go to the wets and stuff like that. There's weapon simulation system, and still shoot that. I just couldn't shoot live ammunition. That was the only thing I wasn't allowed to do.
Okay.
I was allowed to drive trucks and all that sort of stuff, which was good because it's kind of ironic. You're like, the army was happy for me to walk around with blatant depression and, having angry outbursts and all that and carrying around a loaded weapon. They got no problem with that. But the moment that you go and get help for it, they're like, no, can't do anything now. And I understand from a risk perspective, like they've got to, they
I guess you haven't acknowledged it and said, hey, I've got depression. It's obvious to everybody else.
Yeah.
But they can't stop you from doing your job. You say, yes, I do have a problem.
Yeah. And then as soon as you're actually taking medication that can alter perception or can alter your emotions and all that sort of stuff, can have side effects. I understand from a risk perspective that they have to manage it that way. But I think that moving forward, they need to have like a timeline on that. Like once the medication dosage has been stabilized and you're not showing any adverse signs or symptoms or anything like that, and you're stable in your situation, then I think it needs to be assessed on a case by case basis for how we manage mental health. In
I guess it's pretty difficult with because you've got to have doctrine, right? But then everybody's different.
Subjective. It's really hard because they do just have a hard and fast policy of just nope, that's it. If this is the case, then these are the restrictions, and I understand why they do that.
Recent one I had a member that was downgraded for depression and seeing a psychologist once or twice a week, and they wanted to get upgraded, and the MO was like, not until there's not a reliance on the psychologist. So you can see a psychologist every now and then for a check-in, but it can't be a regular session, which is considered relying on psychology.
I remember it was something like if you see a specialist more than 6 times in a year or something, if you were to see a psychologist more than 6 times in a year, then you would be downgraded for that. That's what I remember it was back then. But it's really hard because you're
telling everybody they should see a psychologist and vent and get it out.
Look after yourselves, look after your well-being, your mental health, all that sort of stuff. But also, if you tell us, we're going to isolate you and, make you feel even worse. And I think that, the culture of the military, the way that the military works is that everyone, is a part of the team. And the moment that you're not being an equal member of that team anymore, then you're sort of an outcast because you're actually, in some ways, a liability. It's unfortunate that that's the way it is. I don't know how to change that culture, to be honest.
Even if they're not trying it, it's like you're doing all your stuff and somebody sort of sitting to the side, so you like kind of feel a bit awkward around them.
100%. Like, even my close friends, even though they would never say it, I knew that there was, some I don't even know the word for it, but there was maybe a little bit of resentment or something like that, a little bit of like, come on, man, like now I've got to do this because you can't. Like, there was probably a bit of that going
especially
on.
Especially if it's hard,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially for all those sorts of things. So, it's definitely the way that they manage mental health in the military is pretty bad. But I don't know. I obviously, it's something that came up in the Royal Commission, that they need to uplift the way that it's managed. But I don't know how they're going to do it effectively without also not just increasing the risk to the organisation.
That's it. There's not just a straight up solution, is there?
No.
It's a tough one. Well, at least you got for those that don't know, if you do call open arms, that's not going to get flagged.
Exactly. And so,
as far as I know, it wasn't. Hopefully it's not still.
That's been my advice to people all the time is that obviously like with mental illness, if you get onto it early enough, then it's a lot easier to manage and treat and, and get back on the horse, so to speak. So if you start to feel those warning signs, 100% go to someone like Open Arms, try to manage it external from the organisation first. And then if you really trust like your sergeant or your LT or something like that, if your superior is someone you really trust that isn't going to, throw you under the bus about it, like, let them know what you're doing and the situation that you're in so that they can help manage you and maybe give you some support. Because I know that as a leader, I would want to know if someone else needs additional support, if there's a way that I wouldn't want to be, hard on someone that really just needs a bit of leniency at that time, in a time in need. But obviously you got to trust that they're not going to speak about it outside of that. And so, yeah, try and manage it outside first. And then if it is getting bad, then you really do need just, unfortunately, the way of the beast is you do need to go see, let work know and all that sort of stuff and go down that journey. Like for me to put my head up and say that I needed that help I accepted that was the end of my career. It's not. In the reality is it's not the end of your career. You're just pressing pause on it, really. Like
it's a bit of a road to get back.
It's going to take at least 6 months from when I think 6 months after you stop taking antidepressants or something like that.
You've got to be downgraded for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
As a rule.
Yeah.
So then after that, whatever the treatment is.
Yeah. So you're looking at least a year or so pretty much of.
I mean, if you consider it like, a physical injury, like if I tear my hamstring, I'm going to have to get surgery. I'm going to have to go through a rehab process, and I'm going to have to work my way back up to being able to do a BFA.
100%.
That's going to take me 6 to 9 to 12 months.
Exactly.
So if you consider like, all right, I've got some feelings and some stuff going on, and just understand that there's going to be a process. It's not just as simple as like do a psych session, go back to work.
Yeah, 100%. And so, I went through all of that and I did get support. And then even though I was getting all of that support, it still wasn't enough. Like all it really did was just suppress some of my symptoms and everything like that. But the core root of my problems hadn't been addressed, and that was that I felt trapped in my job because, it's no secret that artillery doesn't really give you much of a transferable skill outside of the army, you get leadership and personnel management and administration and governance and all that sort of stuff. But, being qualified on 30 different weapon systems isn't going to help you in a corporate workplace or something like that. So I felt quite trapped. Like, what am I going to do? I've got a mortgage. Like, I can't just, I can't just quit. So you feel trapped. And then at the same time, like I was working for some absolute pieces of shit, like some of the worst leaders that I've ever had, like people that I just have very little to no respect for. The way that they managed people, the way that they treated people with injuries and illnesses and stuff like that, it was just really toxic. And so being in that environment for so long, it just wore me down to a point where I was so fed up and just at a turning point pretty much. I was like, I'm going to have to quit. Otherwise, I'm going to end up taking my own life or something because I just can't do this anymore. And then literally, like, I'm not a religious person, but if God was sending a lifeline, he did. And that was that position at Soldier Recovery Center. They said, hey, we need someone who understands the challenges of mental health and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, someone who can benefit from the program as well, someone who's a good communicator and all that sort of stuff. And they, our unit welfare officer at the time said, oh, Rainer, I reckon you'd be a really good fit for this. And I was like, 100%. I think I literally ran to his office. I didn't even send an email back. I ran to his office. I was like, yes, 100%. Like, one, it gets me out of here. I get to stay in Brisbane and I get to do something completely different whilst working on myself. And then that literally just changed my life for the better so much more.
When you got downgraded, when you got back from Taji, how long was it before you got that email?
Okay, so I got back in June 2019, and I got that email in roughly June 2022. So 3 years.
So you were struggling for 3 years?
Yeah. So, like I said, I struggled for about 3 years before I actually was willing to accept I need help. I took another 12 months of trying to manage but not willing to share with anyone else that I was struggling. And then I finally got help and professional support, and I still struggled for another 12 months. So, about 3 years of battling it before I went to SRC, and that just completely changed everything, because one, it was an environment that was completely supportive and I was able to work on myself. I wasn't working for the dickheads that I was working for in the other unit. I wasn't in a toxic environment at all. It was just so different.
You got to cut ties and...
Yeah, I just got to work on me, and because as a instructor at Soldier Recovery Center, you need to be living by the values and what we're trying to push. Like you can't be an alcoholic or completely overweight, unfit, and unwilling to try anything if you're trying to push to the participants in that center. Hey, you need to look at your diet and your welfare and all that sort of stuff. So you have to be living by it, which then forced me to completely uproot how I lived life. And
So you were all of those things before you came?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think I don't think that I was genuinely like an alcoholic in the true way that we would describe, but
Wake and bake.
yeah, no, I wasn't like that. I wasn't, I need a drink to stop the shaking, but I drank regularly, all the time, and a doctor would say you're an alcoholic. So, yeah, definitely struggled
And
with
how
that.
long? So you started at SRC. You've got lots of bad habits and stuff. How did the changes sort of come into place?
Well, like I said, I was sort of forced to completely change everything. So, for example, they would have a rule at the center, like no junk food at the center. Simple as that. So you can't eat bad food throughout the day. So that changes one thing. And then I think the biggest thing for me was that everyone that I was working with, instead of everyone that I'm working with being like, let's go to the pub and drink beers, everyone's like, let's go for a run or go for a hike or something like that. Just like the complete opposite mentality. And I struggled with that initially because I was like, I don't like you guys. You guys are boring. Like, what do you mean you're going for a hike? Like, can't we go to the pub and punt on the dogs or something? Like, what do you mean? Do you want to
Bunch of
gamble?
losers.
Fucking losers. But Paul and that being so influential, just because everyone that I was working with was already living by those values, it was like, wow, they've got their shit together. Maybe I should try it. And so then, and I wanted to be part of the team. So whatever they're doing, I'm going to do. And everyone was running. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to run. And then, and then I did your session where you taught me how to actually change the biomechanics of my running, change my technique and my running style so that I would actually run correctly. And all of a sudden, me, someone who hated running my entire life, I just all of a sudden became in love with running. And I focused on that. And then I set a goal because at SRC, we would always talk about goals, about smart goals. And my goal was, all right, well, I'm going to do the GC50, which is a 50K road ultra marathon. And so that was in December. That was 5 months away. So I went from barely running 5Ks to running 50Ks in 5 months, which any professional in like a physio or exercise physiologist would say that's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that. And I did it, and like throughout, just because that training then forced you to stop drinking. It's because I would be like, well, if I drink or I eat bad food, that's going to impact my gains. It's going to affect my run. So then that, like, everything else just fell into place, because if you want to achieve such a goal like that, you have to, it forces you to be accountable for all of your bad habits, I suppose. So
yeah.
And at the same time, like, that came at a cost. Like, all my friends were out drinking, and I'm like, no, I'm not going. Like, so the social life definitely deteriorated a bit, which was hard on them. Like, they've basically lost a mate. Like, they haven't lost mates, but like, it's one less person to be hanging out with all the time. I'm too busy going for a run.
Yeah.
But yeah, I focused on that goal and I achieved it. I struggled, a lot of pain.
I bet.
It was a very hard day, but I
crawled
did
across the finish line.
Pretty much. I cried. I was really emotional across that finish line because it was just so much work and determination to get to that point. So many challenges that you face, even on that run.
Oh yeah.
And then crossing that, and I got addicted to that. Just instead of thinking about drinking, I was thinking about running, and just what's the next goal. And then because people were doing triathlon, I was like, oh, I'll do that because that's less boring than just going for a run. So then I bought a bike and I started swimming and training and doing all that. And then I did. And then 2023 was just the year of racing for me, pretty much. I've mapped out how the year went. It was just phenomenal. I did like a local triathlon in February, and then March was the Mooloolaba triathlon, which is an Olympic distance. Then I went to Then the next one was I did like a half marathon in Moreton Bay into the Brisbane Marathon. I had a coach at this point. I got our friend Tom Robinson to take me through an actual program, which definitely optimized my running. So yeah, I did the Brisbane Marathon and then trained for Sunshine Coast Ironman 70.3. Did a half Ironman. That was crazy. That was like the big one, I suppose. And then after that, it was the Noosa Triathlon and a couple of other smaller triathlons, and then yeah, that was it. And then pretty much after that, my son was born, and then it all just fell apart. After that, there was no time for that. So, unfortunately for my wife, like whilst she was pregnant and needing support, I was very focused on myself, and everything was about me.
Well, you needed it.
I did, yeah. I think because my justification as well was that I want to be the best version of myself when my son's born. And I learned a lot over that year. I learned a lot about myself and my habits and how I would get obsessed with something. Because like, especially like being immersed in that, like everyone at work is doing it and getting addicted to that running and all that sort of stuff. Like I just got so immersed and obsessed with it. And it was sort of like everything else would just fall apart. Like I wouldn't be spending any time on my relationship or on my uni studies or on work or anything like that. I was just so focused on this thing that I'm doing, and so now, fast forward a few years, that's something that I'm sort of dealing with this year is learning how to not be so obsessed with something and just learn to find that balance, and don't be just so crazy about things. Just have a bit of fun here and there. You don't have to go and run a marathon. Just go run 10Ks and enjoy it for what it is. You don't have to train to do some crazy thing.
Yeah.
Oh
man, I was fucking pretty much like almost an identical sort of story without the Soldier Recovery Center. But come out of the Navy and I was just borderline alcoholic, I suppose. Depends who you ask what the fucking definition is. But it wasn't until I found Muay Thai that just turned everything around. But then I became fully obsessed, lost all my friends, because, all my friends were pub friends, drinking friends, pub friends. So, they'd start, they'd be calling me like, can't, got to go training, can't, I'm at the gym, can't, got to run tomorrow. And then it was like they call less and less and less, and then all of a sudden you realize that they're fucking gone. But then and then over the years you try and trying to find that steady balance of like over obsessing on exercise to letting yourself go, and then like, I've been fucking too obsessed for too long. I'm just going to relax and
100%.
drink cocktails and fucking eat shit, and then like, oh fuck, now I'm putting on weight again, and just trying to teeter out and find that level sort of.
Yeah, I've definitely put on some weight since I stopped being so obsessed in all of that, but it's finding that balance, like I was supposed to run the Gold Coast Marathon this year and I pulled out of that because I just haven't been running consistently. And I'm like, you know what, I'm probably going to get an injury if I push for this. And then also I've only got so much time in the week, and it's like, okay, so I can either do a long run, which I should do if I'm going to be training for a run, or I could go play golf with my mate. And like at the moment, what's more important for me now that I'm a civilian is that social connection. So that's way more important to me than being able to run a marathon. I've already done that. I've proven that I can do that I've proven to myself that I can do that. So, now my next thing is just being social. That's what's more important at the moment.
Yeah, that's good. You're already finding the balance.
Yeah. But then the other thing is that when I was at SRC, because I went through that journey and essentially overcame depression. I then, whilst I was going through all my depression journey, I found out about living, being, because I remember, I think it was like an athlete that I really admired. He was an ambassador or something like that. And I've heard about him and I was like, oh, okay. And I loved their messages that it ain't weak to speak. And it took me a while. And like, it was around that time when I had decided, all right, I'm going to speak out about my condition and get the help that I needed. So it sort of came at the perfect time and I really assimilated with it. And then, whilst I was at SRC, I actually applied for a role as a facilitator and I got it. And so, I then got to start working for Living as well as like a sort of side passion project of just helping people. So
What do they do?
So Livin is a organization, like a charity, that it was all founded after a friend of the founders committed suicide, and there was no warning signs or anything like that. He didn't reach out or get any support. And so they decided that, look, there's so many supports out there. There's so much, good support available to someone who needs it, but there's not enough education about it, especially in schools. Like when you were at school, was mental health ever talked about?
No.
Wasn't for me either, so they decided to create a program called Live and Well, which is a 45-minute mental health education and stigma reduction program. And so we go around to schools free of charge, and we deliver this program to educate
high schools.
Yeah, high schools. Yep. So we deliver this program to these kids who are in their adolescence. They're going through so many different changes and emotions and stuff. And we teach them about mental health and how it's so similar to physical health. For example, if you had the flu, you would probably go see a doctor because you're bedridden, you're feeling pretty crook. You're going to see some sort of professional support. But if someone is the equivalent sort of sickness with their mental health, no one goes and gets support. They don't go and reach out to get that professional support. And so we just stay undiagnosed for so long and unhelped. And so that's why we've got this real problem. And then like also pushing the stigma reduction, going, hey, it ain't weak to speak. Like it's statistically half of us will experience mental illness in our lifetime. So, if you're thinking, oh, it's not going to happen to me, because I was always like that before I went to Iraq. I was like, oh, nothing phases me. But turns out I was just bottling stuff and compartmentalizing everything and not actually addressing any issues that ever happened. I had, family members dying and stuff like that, and I didn't even react really because I just didn't process it. And then, so that was an eye opener, and so Livin does that, and we also deliver the session to like corporate workplaces, mine sites, any workplace really. So they will pay for it, and so same as community groups will deliver to those as well, and so the funds from that then pays for schools to get it for free. So
okay.
But they also spread the message through fashion, so heaps of different clothes and stuff like that.
You see the stickers and shirts.
Yeah,
and
you'll
hats
see
and stuff everywhere.
you'll see stickers on people's cars and everything like that. And so the beauty of it is that if you know what Livin is about, and you see someone with that sticker on their car, or they're wearing a T-shirt that says Livin, then you know that person understands mental health and understands that it and is open to helping someone or something like that. Like it synergizes with them. So the more of them that you see, you realize, oh, like there's so many more people that understand it than you really think, which then reduces the stigma and helps people to reach out and open up about it and get support if they need it. So yeah, it's just absolutely tremendous. I love doing it. Going to like a school of 100, the biggest crowd I've had is nearly 1,000 kids, like a whole high school. Like that was huge. And you're just like, far out. Like this is intimidating. trying to capture an audience that big and retain their attention is really hard.
Teenagers as well.
Yeah. And you get a class clown and you just, you tell a joke like that sort of gets them to shut the fuck up. Like you're like, oh yeah, right. Like so, it's pretty good, and because I have to deliver to such a wide variety of audiences, you spend the first sort of 5 minutes trying to gauge them and trying to understand how are you going to be relatable to them. You know what I mean? So I had to do this week. I just delivered to a group of young men at University of Queensland in like one of those
college.
Yeah, one of those colleges where they live on campus. All boys thing, and just had to sort of appeal to them. I'm like, oh, it's Thursday night. Do people still go to Birdies on Thursday night for uni? And they're like, oh, it's actually just reopened. Like so just like you're trying to like break that ice here and there, and trying to understand how to assimilate, how to be approachable to them, and then they get more engaged and then they listen. So that's been really good, like delivering that. I love doing it. It just fills your heart with so much purpose just to, I always think that if I had that session come to my school, maybe I wouldn't have, approached mental health in the same way that I did, and I might not have gone down the same path that I did.
Yeah, maybe. And like, of those 1,000 people, even if a handful of them fucking take it on board,
if one person changes their attitude about mental health and all of a sudden goes, you know what, I'm not going to, bully someone because they're, struggling or something like that, and then, it changes everything. It's worth it. So there, that's really good.
Yeah, awesome. So you got involved with them while you were still in at SRC?
Yep.
When did you get out?
So I officially discharged, I think it was the 29th of April last year. So I'm only just over a year post. I'm still technically circa 3. So I stayed. So here's a really good thing. So I was studying at university part-time, like online, to study cybersecurity, because that was back in 2019. I think I decided, all right, this isn't a job I'm going to do forever. I need to, I need to upskill so that I can transition into something better. And then, so I studied that, and I was going through all that, and then in December in 2024, I realized 2023 was it? Yeah, that was the end of my time at SRC. The regiment wanted me back, and my son was due to be born in January 2024. So I was like, well, I can't go back to the regiment and go outfield and all that sort of stuff. Like, we don't have family up here. My wife is all by herself if I go outfield, and I'm not going to be that dad that everyone expects everyone to be in the army. They're just be like, all right, see, I'm going outfield for 4 weeks, deal with it, And I remember there were guys that were always like, they would, it was like a badge of honor. Oh, I missed the birth of my second child, or I missed the first 6 months of my kid's life. It's like, that's not cool, man. That's not good at all. That's nothing to be proud of, especially if you did it for an exercise. It's not even for an operation. Like, that's just for training. Like, you're not needed. That's the thing. And so I said, look, I can't do it. And they're like, well, unfortunately, you're posting into this position. You're holding a position. You need to do that role. So you're going to need to go outfield. And I'm like, nope. And I put my discharge in, and I said, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that to my family. So I put the discharge date for, I think, end of Feb, because there's plenty of leave that you can take once you're transitioning. Like, through DFTP, you can take, I think it's like 23 days of leave just for upskilling and studying. And because I was already studying, I was like, well, I'll just use that leave. And then I knew I was going to have parental leave to take as well. So I was like, all right, once all that ends, I'll discharge. And I thought that I would have a job lined up by then, but it turns out that breaking into cybersecurity is extremely hard. It's very, very competitive, and it's not really an entry-level field. So to walk in with no experience, like if I had have done SIGs or something in the army, it would have been a lot easier, but I had nothing. So that was a lot harder than I thought. And so I panicked, and I was like, can I extend my discharge date to be the end of April and just take all of my annual leave that I've saved up? And they, to their credit, they said, yeah, you can do that. So they gave me that. And then I also lined up a reserve position at One Reg to be the assistant unit welfare officer, which then allowed me to, so once I finished and was officially discharged from full-time service, I then still continued to work at One Reg like 5 days a week as a reservist, which made no real difference to my salary. But I worked those 5 days because, you're limited on a financial year number of days. So I could work all the way up until July. And then after that, it was like, okay, you can only work max like 2 to 3 days a week. So then I was taking a bit of a pay cut, but I took my long service leave and all that sort of stuff. And then ever since I got my new job, I haven't gone back to the army, unfortunately. I want to, but I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to be taking that leave just yet to spend time doing army stuff to keep my days up, but I do want to continue to serve, and I'm really grateful that I didn't medically separate or anything like that, because I still have that option. And I've spoken to a lot of people who have taken that medical separation and they regret it. They're like, I miss it, and I, wish that I had that option to go back. So I'm really grateful that I do have that.
There are a few people that they come back later.
Yeah.
Harry came back, didn't he?
Yeah. But the thing is that there's been times where I 100% miss it, and I've almost regretted leaving. And I've had to question, like, why did you leave? You know what I mean? And I always look back and I go, well, I left because I wanted to spend more time with my son. I didn't want to, ditch my family and go outfield. So then that just puts a nail in the coffin, and I just go, well, that's it. I don't regret it at all, because I know that I left for the right reasons. I didn't just leave because I was bitter or something like that. I was like, no, I'm leaving for the right reasons. And I think that's definitely saved me a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. With if we dig into when you went to SRC, everything turned around. You said that dug you out of the depressive state you're in. Would you say, like, what was it about that, or what was the thing that sort of broke the depression? Or would you say that you're not depressed anymore, or like it's something that you've got well managed?
I think that it's something that's more managed. You know what I mean? So I don't think that, like, I wouldn't say that I'm cured per se, because I still have periods where there's hardship, like we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis, there's financial pressures, there's, stress about kids and all that sort of stuff. So there's still... You
resort to your old habits when things get hard, or you manage it properly?
No, I do manage it a lot better now. I don't have the time to just, go for long runs to clear my head as much. So, some of my strategies are limited now. Like, I don't have as many tools in my toolbox to use. But that being said, I think that it is definitely under control and more managed now. It's definitely at a more manageable level. It's still there. There's still something that I have to be wary of, for sure. But I think mental health is an ongoing journey. It's a you're gonna have periods where you struggle, and that's okay. It's understanding. Okay, this isn't permanent. This is just we're just going through a tough period. You know what to do. You've been through it before. You just need to focus on this, and then, that definitely helps it a lot. But I think, I don't think that there was one thing that dug me out of that hole so much. I think it was more just a combination of things. It was the fact that I had, it was the perfect storm. I did everything in self-care that you should do, like exercise, better nutrition, cut away pretty much all my alcohol use. I was practicing mindfulness. I had goals. I had purpose. I had all these sorts of things. So there was that. And then at the same time, I was completely immersed with a super supportive group of people that were able to, listen and help and help influence. And, I felt properly managed. Like, I had we were friends with our leaders, with our managers, you know what I mean? Like, that's pretty rare to happen in the army. Like, usually you absolutely fucking hate the person you're working for, because they're usually a piece of shit. And I remember that Paul was the exact opposite, just someone who was super realistic and understanding, and there was so that all of that just all combined together. The whole time I always had the support of my family and my wife and everything. Like, so she's always been super supportive and everything like that, but there was just times where I needed a little bit extra, from work, especially when you're spending 8 hours a day, 5 days a week there. It's a lot of your time is spent in that environment. So it doesn't matter how good home is if you're hating life at work, it's pretty hard.
It's most of your day for sure. Most of your life.
Exactly.
SRC, Soldier Recovery Centre, for guys still serving. Fucking don't miss
Shout out to the Soldier Recovery Centre. It saved me.
Did you get a coin?
I did get a coin,
They're nice coins.
They are really nice coins. I've only got a few coins, and
love me a good challenge coin.
I really don't care for them. Like, some people, are big on collecting them and everything like that, and I've just been like, okay. But I suppose I just don't have enough of them. So it's I've never really.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple. Yeah, I like that. The 2 Commando one.
Yeah, that was from Alex. He got a SOCOM.
Ah, that's so cool. Some cool coins there.
I actually ordered a board. I'll give it a shout out when it arrives, but from JP Metals, like got the Grey Man podcast logo.
That's cool.
Carved into it.
That's cool.
And bought a coin holder.
Nice.
That'll be sick.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So you finished your degree, got a job in cybersecurity.
I haven't finished the degree. I'm on my last subject now.
Oh, yeah.
The last unit, and I picked one that was just, it's like intro to cybersecurity. So I'm already like, there was one that I was like, oh, I don't actually need to attend any of this. I can just, you know. And it's actually really good because they've put it's an online, like a degree. It's a unit that's offered online. And all of my other units have always had like lectures and stuff at night, or like at least recorded, and you could watch them at night. But this unit has made it okay. Like each tutorial that you attend is 1% of your grade, and you have to attend it. But it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday. It's like, I can't do that. I can't attend that. You know what I mean?
Oh, they only write the rules for people that are like full-time students.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's just 10% of my mark that I'm missing. Yeah. But yeah, so I'd studied I did a bit of like additional. So like with cybersecurity, there's hundreds of certifications out there, like industry certifications. I would argue that they're worth a lot more than any degree is in cybersecurity, to be honest. I feel like I learnt a lot more from the certification that I pursued as opposed to my degree. But the degree is just to tick in the box, is to say, hey, I've got a tertiary education, I've, invested time in that. And it might have helped me with getting the job that I did. But but now I'm happily a cyber analyst at a bank in Brisbane, and that's really, really good. So
nice.
I don't do the cool stuff that people do in cyber. I don't do hacking and coding and all that sort of stuff. I look at governance, risk and compliance. I look at policies and stuff like that. So
you enjoy that?
It is good, yeah, honestly. I assess our the bank's third parties. So let's just say you, in an example, you go to apply for a loan and you need to provide documents to verify your identity, like your passport and stuff like that. The bank doesn't verify your identity. The bank outsources that to a software company that has software that verifies your identity for you. But the bank is taking your personal information, being that your ID and all that, and then they're handing it over to this company to then verify your identity. So my job is to make sure that that company has appropriate cybersecurity controls in place to safeguard that information, because if that company gets hacked and all of your data gets stolen, that company's not going to be on the news. It's going to be the bank. Thousands of customers had their data stolen, so yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's basically auditing, really. I basically do auditing, but it's definitely been an interesting job. We're sort of like we're sort of that bridge between the really technical hacking, coding, infrastructure, architecture guys, and the business of the bank that don't understand anything about IT. So we're like the link between them. I suppose we look at the risk and then quantify it in a business terms, I suppose.
And how was it going from being in the army your whole life into a civilian employment?
Hard, definitely hard. I think working in SRC was handy because it was a bit of a transition. Yeah, because the SRC was a very adult environment in compared to any of the army would be able to say that you're not treated like an adult, you're treated like children, expected to be like adults, micromanaged to the hell. So it was definitely hard to transition for sure. I don't know what I think. One of the big things is that you're not working with veterans when you're in the army. Everyone that you work with, you've got this level of trust, and you don't even think about that trust until you've left, I suppose. But got this level of trust where you're like, I trust these people to be there for me, to not dog on me, like, or go jack on me, as the term is. Like, you trust people.
Pull their weight.
Yeah, exactly. You know that no one's going to go behind your back, really. Like, it's pretty. I never experienced anyone going behind my back or anything like that, and I still haven't experienced anyone going behind my back in the civilian world. But at the same time, I just don't have that level of trust yet with these people. Yeah. And I don't know whether I ever will. And that's
probably pull yourself back a bit from
100%,
especially with conversations and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the way that veterans talk.
Yeah.
It's very, very different to how they talk in a corporate office. That's for sure. So,
I was telling my friend yesterday, I was like, we have dark humor, and
then there's another 10 levels, and then there's
and that sort of those conversations wouldn't fly in the regular world.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I won't talk about them on this podcast. My professional network would, that'd be the end of my future career opportunities. But honestly, yeah. The first, whilst I was learning how to communicate in the corporate world, and I still am learning, but initially it was exhausting because I felt like I was having to filter every single thought and thing that I said, and it was because I hadn't learned how to talk yet properly. So I was like, yeah,
and everybody's like having, jesting and having a bit of banter and stuff, and then you're like,
yeah. They would say a joke and they're like laughing, like, oh my God, that's so bad. So I'm just like, me and my wife have 10 times worse conversations than this. Like, this is nothing, but it's just different. And that's the thing. I wouldn't say that working in the corporate world is worse or anything like that. It's just very different. And it's going to take years for me to truly adjust to it, because it was pretty much I worked in a factory before I joined the army. So that's pretty much the same as being in the army, similar sort of, conversations. And then, just a very different way of talking and acting and everything like that. But, at the same time, I work the same hours every day at 4 o'clock. I finish at 4 o'clock, and at 4:01, I'm in that elevator going down, and I don't work weekends. That's just it. Like, and so I have that control over my life. I know I'm not going to be unavailable for my son or anything like that. The only time I miss out on seeing my son when I get home from work is if the train breaks down or something like that. Which does happen quite regularly these days. But 50-cent fares, you can't complain. So, so that was a big transition. And I think what made it hard is that I had the perfect storm of challenge at the same time. So when I left the army, or when I decided I was, when I went on the leave before the army, so I was basically out, I'd finished working for the army full time. I also became a dad, and I was struggling to find a job. So, so many changes. Oh, and also pretty much all except one of my friends posted out and left. So all of a sudden I was like, who am I? What the hell is going on? Like, I have to change everything. So, and like, adjusting to being a dad was also much harder than I thought it would be. I always thought that when your child's born, that a switch just flicks and you just become a different person. Nope. You are forced to just change the way that you do things. And I learnt that I'm quite a selfish person. I like to look after myself. I like to look out for me. Obviously I look out for other people, but I love helping people. But at the same time, I love helping people when I have time for it, or, when it's temporary, because, I can help this person in a crisis for a few hours, but a baby's in crisis all the time. You have to help this person live. It just changes.
No one tells you
everything.
No one tells you about the difficulty of it.
It's really
just how beautiful it is.
Like, it is beautiful, and it is. And I love my son, and I have no regrets. The best thing that's ever happened. But at the same time, it's really hard. Like, it's genuinely challenging, and other people will find it really, really easy. And that's fine. It's perspective, I suppose. Like everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, and parenting really targets a lot of my weaknesses. So, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, fucking earth. I was the same. Me and my wife were both the same, actually. Like, we were so selfish and doing our own thing, and then the kid come along, and it was like, oh, I want to do what I want to fucking do. I want to go for a run. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can't just do whatever you want now. It's like everything has to be like, how is this gonna implicate my child? Like it just changes a lot of things. And I think also like we do things we make it harder on ourselves as well. And I'm not going to judge anyone by the way that they parent at all, because there is no right or wrong way to parent. Everyone has their own way of doing it. But we can see it would be a lot easier for us if we just let old mate just sit in front of the TV and watch that dancing fruit or something like that, because they just get mesmerized by it and it keeps them quiet. But we choose not to do that. We don't give him an iPad or anything like that. We just have to suffer sometimes. We give him all these boring toys to play with and try and engage him as much as possible. And it's really hard. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to judge anyone for the way that they parent. We've just got our way of doing it. And I would say that it's harder. We've made it harder on ourselves, but it's just the way that we've decided to do it.
I used to be real judgmental of parents at restaurants with phones and iPads and stuff. But now I'm like that's your opportunity to just have some time to yourself.
100%. And it's so tempting. Even now that we've put that rule in place that we don't do it, it is so tempting to do it. 100%. I've got no, you see some parents, I used to judge them before I became a parent. Now I'm just like, fair enough.
Smart.
Yeah, I feel for you, man. Like, it's hard. So,
rather be that parent than the one that lets them climb the fucking furniture and throw shit around the restaurant.
Even though as a parent, I still find it funny watching a kid run around being a terror at a restaurant and then they just hit their head on a chair or start crying. I'm like, he had that coming. Everyone's got their own parenting strategy, and no one can tell you how to be a parent. It's just you just have to figure out what works for you and what aligns with your values and what you want. And
it's hard to judge as well, especially when you start getting lots of friends that have kids and you start seeing the differences.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's a lot of it's got nothing to do with your fucking parenting skills. No. Like the kid is just who they are.
Yeah, they're just
some of them are absolute fucking nightmares. Some of them are absolute angels. Some of them are fucking hyperactive and just want to run.
Exactly.
Some of them just chill.
Yeah. Honestly, we've probably got the easiest child ever. He's quite easy. He sleeps through the night almost all the time. Every parent is just listening, going, "Fuck you."
I'll give you we can go through the list of who's got the easiest child.
Yeah.
But me and my ex-wife, swear to God, fucking when we used to have conversations with other parents, we would be like, Don't tell them. Don't tell them. Because we're like, don't tell them how easy we've got it. They'll fucking hate us.
Because we do have it easy. And even though we have it easy, it's still hard.
Yeah,
it's still challenging. That's the thing. So, it is what it is. But yeah, becoming a parent at the same time, so you all of a sudden you have to make sacrifices here and there to accommodate them and all that. And then you're not seeing your friends anymore and you don't have a job. Big identity crisis and, struggling to find a job. I was searching for a job for about 9 months. I reckon I sent about 100 applications. There was lots of doubt going like, have I failed? Like I felt like a failure to my family because I was like, I've quit a perfectly reliable income, like a solid, secure job to go chasing a dream. And I'm at the moment I'm not providing. So I definitely felt like a failure. I questioned my worth and all that sort of stuff. I was like, what have I done? And that was when those things of those questions of regret, like should I have left, all those sorts of things. And then I would again go back to, well, I left for the right reasons. So I was stuck to it and managed to get through. And I'm eternally grateful for the people who took me on in this job. Like, no matter what, they could sack me tomorrow and I would still be super grateful for the opportunity. I'd still be like, it's not an indication for them to please to sack me, but that's just, that pulled me out of a well for sure. Cause I was like, oh my God, thank God.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Cause for a few more months and I probably would have been going back to the army going, hey, take me back. please.
And they would have too.
And they 100%. They would have been like, and you're going to Darwin. Here's this contract.
Yeah, fuck. All right, dude. Fucking got some stuff for you. Actually,
awesome.
I give everyone a keyring and a fucking sticker, so you can have those. But I found another one for you because it made me think of you when I saw it.
That is so good. Is that from Valor Vinyls?
Yeah.
I think I've seen that on the internet. I've been like, I need to get one of those. That is so cool. Yeah,
Get that fucking gun going, God.
I have said that so many times. in a contact, I would, if I had nothing to say, if there was too much silence going on, I'm panicking. I don't know what decision to make. I'd just say, get that fucking gun going. Like just to fill the void, you know? But yeah, no, I appreciate that. Appreciate having me on. I hope that someone might have learnt something from my experience.
I'm sure they will, dude. Appreciate your honesty and having a chat.
No worries. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, brother. What's up, you big bearded beauties? Have you got onto Jericho Australia yet and got yourself some beard products? If you don't have a beard, you can get yourself some colognes, or if you have the female persuasion and that's why you don't have a beard, you can buy the products for your man. I'll tell you what, every girl I've hugged since I've started using Jericho products has complimented me on how delicious the beard oils smell. So get onto them. Make sure you punch in the code, The Grey Man Podcast, to get yourself 15% off your order. Cheers.